What do I think of the first episode of Mao Mao? It's pretty decent, but I think the show does have potential to be a lot of fun. Hey guys, Blood Moon Bobby here. So here I am back on YouTube. I know once again it's been quite a while since I posted my last video. Like I said in my previous videos, I've started to one full-time job and an internship, so I haven't been able to get videos out as consistently as I would like, but then again, things like life or have to come first. So that's where I've been in the past week or so. I really try to upload at the absolute very least once a week. If anything, I try to post 3 to 5 times a week. So I'll try to stick to that schedule more so in the future, if I could find ways to balance time. I mean, I'm definitely not going anywhere. I'm not leaving YouTube at all. It's just, I really gotta nail, posting videos more consistently. And just to be clear on something like real quick before I get into like my review of the first episode of Mao Mao, the new Cartoon Network series. I know I've been posting pretty alarming stuff on especially Twitter lately. It's not that I'm trying to scare you guys, it's just that I really like being, as honest and transparent as you guys. I never like to pretend, oh, la di da di da, everything in my life is fine and super pleasant. Like, I like letting you guys know when I don't feel so well. I mean, obviously, I don't, reveal every single thing that's going on, but I do like to tell you guys, how I'm feeling and those kind of things. So that's kind of why you've been seeing those posts a bit. So yeah, I remember putting a tweet out about a week ago saying that I was gonna watch the new action comedy from Cartoon Network, Mao Mao, and sure enough, the first episode, the show itself actually debuts today from the time you were watching, but the first episode has been up on Cartoon Network's YouTube channel for quite a while now. So I announced that I was going to watch it. Some of you guys heard on Twitter and were really excited that I was finally going to check it out. So I was pretty decently excited. And what did I think of this very first episode? Uh, it's decent. I mean, I liked what I saw, which, okay, it already sounds like I have big problems with the series. I mean, I don't hate it personally. I thought, it was, nice and easy to watch, and, it was um, pretty decent. I guess I'll get into more of what I mean when I use the term pretty decent, because I do ultimately like the first episode. And hey, any show can, improve after, its first few episodes. So, this may not even be a reflection of the entire series of Mao Mao as it is, and I do want to see this series improve because I do think the first episode was quite a fun watch. So what exactly is the series of Mao Mao about? Well, the title, is the name of the main character. How many times am I going to say the word Mao Mao in the series? And, that is his name. And of course, it's kind of a play on words, Mao Mao. It's kind of like, it's um, sort of like play on words of like Chinese words while sounding like kind of like sounding the cat, the sounds cat makes, like meow meow. So that's why he's called that. He's a sword swinging guy, goes around and fights bad guys. And alongside Mao Mao, he actually has a sidekick with a sort of robotic arm, as you could see right behind me, and his name is Badger or Clops. And the very first episode, basically what happens is Mao Mao and Badger Clops have to fight these pirates that are flying in the sky, which kind of reminds me of a Miyazaki movie. Not saying that I think it ripped off Castle in the Sky. I thought it was, if the intent was for it to be, kind of a nice nod to that movie, then I think that is pretty sweet. So that's the basic gist of the plot. So they have to fight these pirates. And by the way, I'm going to be, as I often do in a lot of my show discussion videos, there are going to be spoilers in this video. So if you guys haven't seen this first episode of Mao Mao, I'll have it linked below in the description. You can go check it out on Cartoon Network's YouTube channel. So, but if you've already seen it or you don't mind spoilers, then I will continue. And so they take down this flying pirate Yeah, or so they think, and in the process, they accidentally crack this like heart-shaped crystal, and that heart-shaped crystal actually forms this kind of cloaking device that is supposed to hide off the world that Mao Mao takes place. It takes place in a kingdom called the Pure Heart Valley, so of course Mao Mao feels pretty sad about what happens, but then it turns out that the pirates are okay, and they actually try to steal. See, the thing about the heart-shaped crystal is that it has kind of like an X-shaped like crack, so the pirates are trying to steal the crystal itself, and of course Mao Mao, Badgerclops, and the help of a new sidekick character, a bat named I'm going to be looking at my iPad quite a bit. Adorabat, they all take down, they all fight the pirates, and with the help of Adorabat, he actually lets this bomb go, and it blows up the pirate ship, and the day is saved. And the thing about Adorabat is that throughout this first episode, he's walking around, thinking, oh, nothing ever interesting ever happens around here. And when he sees Mao Mao and Badgerclops, they come into town, he was like, ooh, like basically he kind of gets that hunger for adventure, and he wants to be a hero. And of course, initially Mao Mao is really doubtful because he sees as Adorabat as just merely kid, and he's like, no, it's too dangerous. But by the end, Adorabat is able to prove himself, and Mao Mao allows him to join his team. So that's how it all works, and that's the overall plot of the first episode. And yeah, so let's actually talk about what I thought about the different aspects of the very first episode of Mao Mao. So the story itself, I mean, it's just kind of like, I guess I see it as just kind of like your typical very first episode. What kind of struck me, and I think this kind of speaks to the kind of show that Mao Mao is going to be, is I'm very used to having like in first episodes like a very you get a feel for an introduction of these characters, but the way that the first episode writes itself, it almost kind of feels like you're just kind of thrown in to this adventure and not given too much time in terms of having an introduction to Mao Mao and Badgerclops. Like obviously they establish their personalities, but it kind of feels like you're sort of thrown in. And I think it kind of gets to that how Mao Mao kind of feels like a series that it's not meant to be a sort of big like adventure, like really grand with a super grand story with something like Steven Universe or a show like Gravity Falls or Star vs. the Forces of Evil. I'm trying to keep it within Cartoon Network, but I'm just kind of listing some examples. But who knows, that could sort of change. But I got that kind of gist of a feeling that it's not going to have that sort of really like super concrete like sort of continuity you would expect. This is supposed to be something that's much more fun, much more laid back. Something that's easy to watch, easy to digest if you use that word when it comes to processing things like the shows you watch. So, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying just because I'm not saying oh, I wish that had continuity. Like I honestly don't mind every once in a while. A lot of the shows I used to watch as a kid didn't have like super or strong continuity, and the strength was when you tuned in every week, it was still entertaining. Shows like shows like the Powerpuff Girls, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, or Camp Lazlo, shows that didn't have like a super firm continuity. It was just kind of like they established some things, but overall it's a very easy to watch. So, and it seems to be in the direction that Mao Mao is going, which from a first episode, that's just what it feels like. I mean, who knows? Maybe things will change and there will be a bit more of a continuity. But that was the kind of impression that I got from watching this first episode. But so, the story is just your kind of typical story of, oh, you have your two lead characters, they're taking on some bad guys. There's a third, like, sort of character who is kind of like, I guess you could call them, they were like pupil, like the really enthusiastic character who is like, I want to join you. And the main character is like, nah, you're not ready, or nah, you're just a kid. And, that third character has to, prove, in the case of Adorabat has to prove himself. So, kind of typical stuff, but I wouldn't personally knock him for that because I do think it works pretty well as a whole. It was still pretty entertaining enough, and I guess that leads us into the characters. Do I like the characters of Mao Mao? And I would say, yeah, I think they were pretty all right. I mean, Mao Mao, the thing about him is that he's a very deterministic character, but in a enjoyable way, not in like a very selfish, prickish sort of way, but in the kind of you sort of get a kick from how deterministic he is. He has he has kind of like he has kind of dreams of grandeur and that sort of stuff, and he wants to be regarded as legendary. And as Badger Klops put it, he's like, "Oh, I get it. You want to be loved by your parents, and that sort of that." So he has dreams of glory. And even when he's taking down the pirates, he was like, "Wait a minute! If I take down these pirates, I'll be considered legendary." So it's that sort of thing. Like, yeah, he's kind of he's deterministic, and even he kind of has like hopes of grandeur, and he's kind of egotistical, but he is like enjoyable enough and likable enough as a character that he doesn't come off as like selfish or toxic or anything like that. And Badger Klops is also pretty enjoyable too. Like, he's kind of the more like sort of calm, much more down to earth, occasionally like sort of cowardly character, but he does of course help out Mao Mao, and he has his hand is a mechanical hand that can turn into like a laser gun, but also could turn into things like, I think I saw things like a grappling hook and a whisk. So I would say Badger Klops, is a pretty decent character as well. Adorabat is also a really likable character. I did want to see him join, even though I was kind of thinking, yeah, we've seen this character before. Adorabat is like, just so, likable enough and admittedly adorable enough where it's just like, you do want to see this character, join Mao Mao and his team. So I would say, as far as the characters go, I would say pretty decent. Not exactly the most three-dimensional characters you're ever gonna meet, but they're enjoyable enough that you want to see them, do good in the end. Okay, so I would say the other thing is the jokes. These aren't exactly the kind of jokes I personally will laugh at. It's a really kind of like silly, like sort of like in terms of like how the sense of humor of Mao Mao, like it's a very kind of over the top, kind of typical, like I guess you could say typical children's show, which I guess you got to give credit to that. But when I say like to give you a kind of example of the kind of like just in terms of like the jokey dialogue. Like, for instance, like in the very beginning of the episode, you see Mao Mao and Badger Klops, they're riding on their flying motorcycle, and Badger Klops says something along the lines of, "Oh, could I ride the motorcycle?" And Mao Mao is like, "No, I'm gonna do it. And besides, you ride a motorcycle like grandmas." And Badger Klops is like, "That's insulting to grandmas." So it's that kind of, sense of humor. Like, I would say the thing about Mao Mao's sense of humor, or the show's sense of humor, is that it has a very sort of Saturday morning cartoon sort of sense of humor, just in terms of how you've got the over the top villain who is very jokey and even has like a moment of playful banter with Mao Mao. Like in the middle of their final battle, the villain tells Mao Mao, "Hey, if I get my hands on that magical heart crystal, then I'll become a legend." And Mao Mao then gets the idea, and he's like, "So if I actually save the day, then I'll become a legend?" And the villain's like, "Well, I suppose." So, it's that kind of, sort of sense of humor, and it's not really like up my street personally, but it's not at the same time, it's not like a super annoying sort of sense of humor. So I got to give the show credit for that. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching, who are going to check out Mao Mao and say, "Oh, hey, I actually kind of like that humor." Well, more power to you. I hope you enjoy it then. And the next thing I'll get to, and honestly, I think this is the part of Mao Mao that honestly my biggest issue with the show is just the pacing of the show, and it kind of cuts back to sort of the pacing issues I've had with a couple Cartoon Network shows over the last couple of years. I'm talking about shows like Powerpuff Girls 2016 and Mighty Magic Swords Down. Don't worry, if the pacing is not that, like, the show is definitely, it's still, definitely a decent show. Don't get me wrong. I mean, trust me, I would much rather watch an episode of Mao Mao over an episode of something like, Mighty Magic Swords or Powerpuff Girls 2016. But it does kind of have a similar problem in that the pacing is a bit too fast. Like in the case of Mao Mao, when I was taking the notes for the review, there were many times where, like, a perfect example was when take the scene, for instance, where Mao Mao and Badger Claws, when they accidentally bump into that heart-shaped crystal and they destroy that, cloaking field that protects the valley. Now, when I first saw that scene, like, it went by so fast, I didn't even know the consequence. I just thought that, oh, he broke a crystal. But when I rewatched the scene where they meet the King of the Valley and he says, and now our cloaking device is destroyed. And I'm like, huh? Where did that happen? So I backed up, and they very quickly show that after the crystal gets cracked, the cloaking device just goes away, and it reveals the entire valley of this place. I guess you could say it's kind of like how Wakanda is hidden in Black Panther. It's that sort of place where it's supposed to be super protected, and that the outside world can't get to it. So that sort of stuff where it's just like, huh, that happened. Oh my God, I better go back. So it's just like moments like that just kind of like, oh, make me think, okay, this show is a bit too fast paced. I guess the pacing of the show, it doesn't bother me quite as much. Like, it's still something that kind of irks me, and I hope it's something that can be improved as the show goes on. But at least it's not like something like Powerpuff Girls 2016. And I'm a fan of the original Powerpuff Girls series, but like a lot of you guys, I thought the lead characters in the reboot were super, super caricaturish and could get really annoying and unlikable at times. At least it doesn't have that sort of zing of not only is it too fast paced, but also the characters are really annoying. The characters in Mao Mao are at least, like, I guess, for lack of a better word, like charming enough. Like, maybe charming's not the best word, but at least they're entertaining enough that I'm just like, hey, at least I get the basic, at least I get the sort of overall gist of the story. It's just that for some of the details, you really got to pay attention, or you really got to take a step back. So I honestly think that's probably one of the issues I have with the show so far. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like fast-paced shows, but it's just like I don't like fast-paced to the point where it feels like I'm either missing information, or it's so fast-paced that it feels like the plot is like over within a snap of a finger. This was also an issue I had with the first season of Star versus the Forces of Evil. And I don't think it has much to do with and even though you could attribute it to the fact that Mao Mao is only a 11-minute series, there have been other Cartoon Network shows that have lasted 11 minutes and were able to pull a really decent pace so that it doesn't feel like it went too fast. Shows like Steven Universe, regular show, OKKO, those, yeah, they were 11-minute episodes, but they were still paced really well so that it didn't feel super short. So I really hope that's something that the series could balance as it goes along. It can still be fast paced, but but not in a way where it feels like you're missing out on key information and that sort of a thing. So I think overall, what are my personal thoughts about Mao Mao so far? I personally think that it does have promise. The first episode, I will say, is a decent setup. Maybe not something like, revolutionary or anything like that. But at the same time, I do understand that, it's meant to be, sort of more of an easygoing show to watch. I mean, when I was watching this, it honestly kind of reminded me of when I used to watch Shaolin Showdown on Kids WB back when I was a kid. So I'm not saying that, that because it doesn't have a grand story that it's bad or anything. I mean, I've grown up with, like, many of the shows I grew up with had had very little continuity, and I still had like some really amazing times. Like I said, I'll bring, I brought up shows like Powerpuff Girls, Camp Lazlo, those kind of shows. Maybe they didn't have a lot of continuity in them, but at the same time, they were still like entertaining enough. And the one advantage that these shows have over something that is very, very story driven is that you could basically, watch whatever episode you want. I don't know if that's going to be the exact path that Mao Mao goes on. I feel like I'd have to see some more episodes to get a sense of, an even better sense of how much of a show this is. But I think this is supposed to be something that's much more easygoing, something that's a little closer to like, Saturday morning cartoons, something that is supposed to be like much more fun to watch. The kind of thing where, if you're just kind of channel surfing and, you come across an episode of Mao Mao, you'll just be like, hey, I had my quick fix of Mao Mao and I thought it was a lot of fun. So I honestly think, at least for me, I mean, and I'm sure, people watching this, are going to check this out and become diehard fans of the show. I already know this because from when I announced I was going to be covering the first episode on Twitter, I noticed, quite a few people were excited for me to check it out. So I suspect that it is going to have, like, some sort of fan base that will get into the show, and absolutely more power to you. For me, it's just that I just wish that maybe the pacing could be like not as fast, like it could be more balanced so that it could have fast action, but it's still like well paced enough that you could still follow the details of these stories. So I think that's my sort of thing. The sense of humor of the show isn't exactly my cup of tea either, but it is still, enjoyable enough that I'm just like, hey, that was still kind of fun. So I do think that there's definitely a lot of promise in Mao Mao. I do hope that they do iron those sort of issues out. Like I said before, fast pace doesn't automatically ruin a show for me. I mean, like I said, the one cool thing about Mao Mao is that, yeah, it might be kind of too fast paced like some of Cartoon Network's other shows, but unlike those shows, this one is still enjoyable enough that, I do want to see these characters, go on their journey and defeat the pirates and have Mao Mao do, right by, taking them down. And yeah, and like I said, even though Mao Mao could be a very sort of self-serving, deterministic character, it's that kind of like really likable egotism that, we're still like very drawn to this character and we still want to see him, accomplish his goals and that sort of thing. So my overall first impressions of Mao Mao was that I thought the show was pretty decent, hoping that the newer episodes were a lot better. It may not become like my like new favorite Cartoon Network show, but for me it might become the sort of show where, if I just want to like watch a show and just chill out and have a good time, this may be it. But yeah, so I hope the show gets better, and I'm looking forward to what comes next. So please let me know your thoughts on Mao Mao below. Did you see the series? Did you sit through spoilers and you're still thinking, hey, I'll go check out the series anyway? Leave all those thoughts down below. Until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby, and thank you guys for watching. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this Blood Moon Bobby video. Like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to leave a comment. Subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell to get notified when I release my latest videos. Follow me at Blood Moon Bobby on your favorite social media platforms to take part in polls, see my tech tips, and to hear about my video plans. Thanks for watching.